So today we'll be going through a project that I've already pre-built, and it's actually part of my book, so it's pretty easy for me to just go over it. And the reason as to why I'm doing this project, it's because I didn't see a need to recreate it from scratch, because it makes no sense because the project's already there and it's on my book. So in my book I explain a lot of the concepts, and what I'm going to do in this video is just talk through the concepts again and just highlight and also say why I used a couple of things compared to others. Because in Android, I mean, there's so many ways of achieving or solving a problem. So it's up to how your company or yourself want to do it. Now let's get started. So this project uses actually Dagger, that's Hilt. And for those who don't know, Hilt is used for dependency injection. Now, I have to say, when when Hilt was not there yet, and we only had Dagger, I had never worked on an application that used Dagger, the fast Dagger. I think that would be Dagger 1 and Dagger 2. But I'd used Coin, which is another way of dependency injection, and definitely I think I might have used another one, but I'm forgetting the name of it. But those are the ones that I've used that I know very well of. Now when Hilt came, Hilt was just an advancement of Dagger. Hilt was much easier to learn, if you ask me, because I feel like it's like Room. When I saw Room, I was like, wow, this one clicks pretty fast. I mean, there are things that will definitely click immediately when you start working with them, and there are others you'll be like, oh my goodness, why is this so hard to understand? So Hilt was one of those that I look at it and I'm like, I actually understand what's happening now, and I'm super happy about it. So you will definitely need to have this. The project also, I'll link the project where you can get it on the video, so definitely feel free. And then I think for the next video that we'll be doing, I'll be working on actually building a different project that we can do together. But this one, I think many other people have done it too, so that's why I didn't see a need of recreating this entire project, but just wanted to show anybody new in Compose who wants to actually explore building, let's say, a login page, how you can do it, or just tips and tricks. So as you can see here, this is my project, and these are the packages. And I have a couple of packages here. So I have number one, the main activity. But first, before we do that, let me actually talk through this one. So here, you will definitely need to include Hilt. If you're using Hilt for dependency injection, that's the need. You will also need to include this two here. And you will have to ensure that this one here is called. Hilt cannot work if those are not included. Now, on the main activity, you will definitely need to also create your entry point. As you can see, this is my entry point. And here, as you can see, what I have is just a simple navigation. And here what I'm doing is whenever I get that navigation, I have a host. Let me actually remove that there. And as you can see here, it gets the login content screen that actually takes a Hilt of your model. And then on register navigation 2, we navigate to, so we will talk about that. That is when somebody, let's say, they've not created an account and they're new to that particular place, which is our login screen, they can register navigate to. And then here, as you can see, this is just nav controller. And yeah, I'm just navigating, just calling the navigator there. Now, I'm gonna go back to my entry point, which is the here, which is my 100. When you're using Hilt, you always have to declare this Hilt 100 app. Now, I'm not going to talk about why you need to do this, but definitely you can always look at why you want to do that, and this is how you just learn about it. Like this annotation annotation for making the application class where the Dagger component should be generated. Since all components will be built in the same completion as the annotated application or modules and entry point that should be installed in the component needs to be transitive compilation dependencies of the annotated application. As you can see, there's always information that you can get when you click on that, but this is the entry point. Now, this one is called on the manifest so that nobody is confused. As you can see, it's here. because if it's not called in the manifest, again, you will encounter an issue and you'll be wondering what is happening and why is my app not working. Now, let's start with the data. And I want to talk about this data. I will not talk about all of the parts because, of course, other parts is just going to be UI. And in the previous videos, we've done that, created a couple of UIs. So it's just that idea of creating the UIs. So in this particular, as you can see there, we have data class authentication state. So this is just a way to authenticate. So this particular line, which is the first line, which is line number 3, just declares a data class named authentication state. Now, in Kotlin, a data class is a concise way to create classes that primarily hold data. Now, that authentication state class is used to represent the state of authentication. That is just what it's doing. Now, as you can see, we also go ahead and create val. Again, if you want to refresh your knowledge on what var and val are, val cannot be changed. Var can be changed. Pretty easy to remember. Now, the val username, that line just reads like only property. The username of type string with a default value of empty string. Currently, nothing is there. The same with password, but for the toggle password visibility, as you can see, that one, the default value is of a boolean, and that is true. Now, it indicates whether the authentication process is currently in a loading state. That's the idea. That's what I was thinking when I was creating that. Now, you might be wondering, why am I overcomplicating like login? I think it's important to listen to these particular states on your screen because that's how you'll able to react based on those on the view model. Now, there's a big debate if you should use view models in Jetpack Compose. But to be fair, I did this. I think at work I did one without a view model and I did another one with the view model. And for some reason, I might be not accurate, but I saw the one that had a view model was much faster. I just don't know why, but it felt to me that the communication would go faster. And that worked. I did see an article though that MVI, which is model view intent, that is, you have your model and you have your view, and the intent, I figured it might be intention, works pretty faster. But look, I stand to be corrected. And another way of discussion. Now, I've talked about companion objects before. So the companion object is like a keyword to define a companion object, which is just an object associated with a class rather than an interface of the class. Now, that particular thing also means it can be easily used anywhere. So as you can see, the empty state can be easily used anywhere. And that's it. That's just what I was trying to do there. Now, going down, I have a package called DI. Oh, let me remove that. I have this package called DI. Now, that's where I create my app module. Let me drink my water. That's where I create my app module. So for those who don't know, let's say you're pretty new to coding, you've never heard about what a module is, and you don't know how dependency injection works. What I would definitely say is definitely look into the documentation of, I'll also link that on the video, which is going to be pretty helpful because you'll be able to see what all these things mean. But module is just an annotation used to declare that the class, which is that class, contributes to the Dagger object graph for dependency injection. That's what it means, in my understanding. And then it tells Dagger that this class contains methods annotated with the @provide, because you can see there we are just providing that. Now, what provide does, it's just an instance of the dependency itself. But as you can see, you might be wondering, I have another thing there that says simple login dispatches, right? So what does that does? Again, it's just returning the dispatcher class that we've created, which is a default main and IO, which is input and output. And that's what that does. And there's more to that. and definitely you can look into that too, like what are dispatchers, what do they do. But mainly the dispatchers are actually provided by Kotlin coroutines library, I think, if I'm not wrong. And I think each is designed for a specific type of operation. For instance, the default one is optimized for CPU intensive work, and the main one, and I will also look at this. If I'm wrong, I'll definitely edit the video and put down the comment. But that's how I remember them. And then the main one is used for UI related work. If you're somebody new and then you see we're running that particular job in a dispatcher.main, what it just means is that it's used for UI related work. And then for dispatches that are IO, which is input and output, so those are optimized for just that, input and output operations. And that's it. So to summarize this particular code here, as you can see, and this is the ones that I wanted to explain because they're the ones that might be ambiguous to somebody new, because I've not touched on this, because the other ones are just pure screens and just a little bit of code. So in summary, Dagger Hilt module, that is app module, provides a method, provide dispatchers, right? That provide dispatcher. And it returns that sample login dispatcher, which is a class representing a different dispatcher for concurrent operation. And you'll see how that works together. Cool. So I hope if anybody has any question, please feel free to ask on the comment section. Now, here as you can see, I am going to close this particular branches here and come here. I have this particular package, too much talking, package called login. Now inside login, I have components, and inside this component, I have a user input field. What comes to your mind when you hear an user input field? Definitely it's a field that you can input data. Let's look at the first one. As you can see here, what this one does is clearly we are passing the authentication state. We are listening to when the value is changed, and we are checking for an error. And this particular error, as you can see, it's a boolean, and it just takes if the username contains particular strings to regex, do this, and you'll see how that. So mainly it should only contain this. If it contains any special character that we don't need, it will complain. Now, I have to say, you don't have to code yours like this. This has to be a specific, unique way. The reason why I did this was just an example of showing how you can handle errors in your user input field. Okay, a user input field is just returns like an outline text field. And as you can see here, that's what it does. So on the value, we listen to the auth state, .username, and then we react to that. And it has to be not enabled. So as you can see there, it's not low. So this, the not sign, if you've heard of the truth table, you'll know the not sign. So not auth state.loading. So what we're saying here, so if it was true, that has to be false. And then we have the label, enter your name and all that. Now, here again, we're checking if it contains that. Sorry, the username cannot contain special characters. That's what we're doing, again, for testing. Now, we have the password input field. That's what we're doing here. Again, similar thing, looking at the outline. And then we're checking, there's an icon button, which is, of course, to show the. Now, I'm just going to pause a little bit. I really, really, really dislike any application that has a password and doesn't show you what you're inputting. To be fair, I find that to be very frustrating for so many reasons. Because our phones, for instance, my foldable has a very small screen up here. So when you're typing, you might miss whatever you're typing. And then you can't see the password. You have to keep retyping again. So please always put that trailing icon just to ensure that your users can see what the password is. That's what this is just doing here. And that's it. And then I have a maximum line of 1. Nothing special here, just saying keep it 1. But again, you can always code yours very differently. Don't worry about the code. I'll definitely share the code for you to see what's happening if you need. to rewrite this code. Now, and then we have the login button. So the button I just created in this particular component, as you can see, so that it can be reused because it's using actually two screens. So instead of creating different buttons, I just used one, which I can use on the register screen and the login screen. And as you can see, what it does, it has an animated visibility, and then we do the loading because we definitely want it to load once everybody starts inputting their password and they're done, it will start loading. So we will do the loading thing. Progress. Now let's look at our login content. So our login content, definitely I need to clean this up. Removed the imports there. So what happens here is we have our login content. And as you can see, I'm using a lot of callbacks because it's more cleaner. So what I'm just doing, I'm passing all these things down. As you can see here on my user name field, which I called from the component, I have the alt set as UI state, on value change, do this. As you can see, this one is right here. And it's a string. And this one, it's going to be called inside the login content screen, and you'll see how I'm calling that. So for the remaining of the code, again, it's just the way we created other codes, just composables, and that's how you do it. I don't think there's anything unique here apart from that. And then going to the login content screen, this is how I'm calling it here, as you can see. So I have my login content, I have my UI state, view state, which is that. Also, if you want to learn what this is, you can definitely look into that. But this is inside the view model. Actually, let's look at the view model. Let's look at the login view model. Now, our login view model is a little bit, as you can see here, this is where we passed in our dispatcher, which we needed to have in our app module because we are passing them. Those are dependencies of this particular class. We also have saved state handle. This is a way that I learned actually of doing it. I think it was through an example that I saw, and I thought it was cleaner. And it makes the screen, it's actually very fast. It's pretty interesting, but it makes the login pretty faster. Now, as for combined flow, this is definitely something that I also borrowed from Stack Overflow. As you can see, it's just a flow. And if we can look into flows, this is what flows are. It's an asynchronous data stream that sequentially emits values and completes normally or within an exception. And intermediate operators on the flow, such as map, filter, take, zip, etc., a function that apply to the upstream flow or flows and returns a downstream flow where further operation can be applied to. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to combine all of the flows that are going to be working together, which is what? We need a user input, we need a user password, and they need to click a button. Now, we are also tying together the visibility because all of those, not experiment, but all of those flows are tied together. The user trying to log in, the user trying to enter a password, and the user trying to check the password, and then they click in the button, and then it all works together synchronously. And that's it. That's just the idea there. And that's where I am. So register content stream, nothing very unique. Pretty similar screen to the other one. Just has, again, its own sets of, let's say, user input. And because it's the same, like I said, did not want to create specific ones. So I just reuse those components, which makes it much easier for us, right? Just reuse them. And that's all we did there. Now, for register content, that's what we did because that's an entire screen by itself. So that's what I completely decided to do. Let it be handled by itself because I didn't want to tie it together with the other one because all of them are reacting to different ways. And definitely in the register content, if you're building, you might notice that this is where you might also want to save this particular user to your database because when they log in, it's different sets of rules. We are not doing that all over again. Now, I have the utils, for instance, which is my destinations. I think I talked about destinations in the previous one where I did bottom navigation. So this is another way you can do destinations. As you can see, we have a route. So we have a login screen and register screen. So it's easily just navigating there. I think on my current project, I don't handle navigating back from, let's say, register screen to login screen. So if you're trying to learn, try to see if you can implement that. Now, for the progress loader, I did give credit here to Chris Baines. I follow him a lot, so he had a pretty good progress loader, and that's what it's doing. So this is the load in when we enter all that, and I'll show you in a few minutes. And then finally, so all this mutable, let's say, these are just used to help. For instance, here, class that acts as a mutable state flow, but save the value to retrieve it upon process death. That is, if you kill the application, we can retrieve our particular flow. And as you can see here, we have all these dispatches, but I think we're just using the main, if I'm not wrong, but you don't have to pass all of them if you're not using all of them. This is just an example. And here I have a couple of test tags for my tests. And this is the main, so I don't think I need this here. I don't think I need that there. But here, as you can see, that's how the test looks. I'm just creating a content login for test. And then here, I'm just doing the testing, which is not complicated. And that's the UI test. And then I think I'm also doing a couple of UI tests, which is just listening to the flow. And I'm not doing anything complicated. Just test the authentication state changes, and that's how you can write a couple of texts or even add more. And when you run the app, once you run the app, this is what you should have. You should have where you can enter your name. Let's say, I can say Madonna. If I put that, as you can see, it will show the error because that's a special character. If I put that too, it doesn't take any special characters, so it will definitely complain. And if I put, let's say, Madonna underscore, that one will not complain. Oh yeah, but that one definitely is not allowed. And then for password, like I mentioned, I think you should be able to just enter your password pretty easily, and then you should be able to see your password. As you can see, I like that. I mean, show me what my password is. I mean, nobody else is doing that. But also you will notice once we go all the way back, it's grayed out. Good experience. Make it grayed out for users. Don't showcase a lot. I mean, it's just a good user experience. Definitely UI, I did not pay too much attention to that because I was trying to demo. But just when you start entering, let it be active, and then when a user tries to log in, let them log in. That's the loading process. So it's showing the loading. And then once that's done, so you have to authenticate, it takes you to another screen. So authentication process is definitely different. You can use Firebase, you can use your own JW token or whatever ways you're using to authenticate your users. But definitely that's a way that you can do that. Build a simple flow from login to on the screen. And that's it. Bye. See you on the next video.